Hello, hi. Molweni, ndiyanamkela kuhlelo olutsha lwe-African Xhosa ASMR. Thank you very much, very much for joining me in today's video. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, join, super thanks. If there's anything I'm begging of you, please like this video. Please. Okay, please like this video. I need you to like this video. Anyway, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I wanted to do a sit down video, just a sit down where I jibber jabber about random things that happened in life or in my childhood, etc. And I seriously can't get any story right now. I cannot think of any story to talk about. Before, when I was getting set up and preparing, I was like, trust me, I will think of something, and then there will be a story that I think of, and then I talk about it. And now I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh, it's time to record. What am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? And I have no idea what to talk about. Mancinge ibali engathetha ngalo, ibali endingathetha ngalo, ndenze ibali lantoni, ndenze ibali lantoni. Okay. Let me think. I thought of something. I just randomly thought of something. Okay, this is a story. Okay, where do I even start? It's just a random story. Where do I even start? One thing I will tell you about my father is that he used to love vintage cars. He would always have a vintage car, like a vintage car that he bought somewhere from someone as a second hand, so that he could have that vintage car. And then after he's done with that vintage car, he would then sell it and then buy another different vintage car. And he also needed to have a convenient car, because you cannot drive a vintage car to the village. He needed to have a convenient car. And a convenient car, he wouldn't buy a second hand unless he's buying a good second hand. But he made it a point that it's a new car or a good second hand when it comes to a convenient car. And that convenient car would be a bakkie. A bakkie. What is a bakkie? What do other countries call a bakkie? Because I think the bakkie is a South African term. I'm going to just put a bakkie here somewhere on the screen. That would be the car my father uses for convenience, right? So we used to go to school in a different town from where my parents built their home. But these are like towns that are close to each other. Yeah. Anyway, and then my mom worked in a different town, which is a neighboring town to where they built their home. And my dad worked in that town where they built their home, So every Sunday afternoon, my dad had to drive us after church, drive us to the town where we went to school and my mom was working. And or drive us and drop us off, and then we get ready for school on Monday and everything. But it's very rare. But at times when we don't drive on Sunday, he would drive us very early in the morning, and then we're ready with our school uniforms and everything, and then just drop us off at school. But that means we'd have to wake up extra early for that, which was not cool. So it was best or convenient for us to be back that side on Sunday afternoon. And then every Friday afternoon after school, he fetches us and then we go back, right? It was this back and forth. But one thing that we learned the hard way is we were kids, right? And my dad was just like driving us back and forth, was that we always pray that he would drive us back using the convenient car, right? Because we know we would put a sponge at the back of the car and just sit there, relax, and just, enjoy the ride. Before we know it, we're in this other town. But there was this one time he drove one of these vintage cars. He drove us, to the other town using the vintage car. And we're like, okay. We came back from church. We had a Sunday braai. We'd always have that Sunday braai and whatnot. So after having that Sunday braai, me and my sister, we had played this other game where you had to play. It's called Three Teens. You try to arrange teens and stack them on top of each other. We'd play that game after the braai, and we were playing. We got dirty. And then my dad was like, okay, it's time to go. And then we do the normal thing. We just thought we were going to get on the back of the bikie in the other car. It's like, no, today we're going to be using the vintage car. And we got it inside the vintage car. And as we were riding in that vintage car, our road has so many twists and turns, and at some point it's close to the beach on the side. I mean, when you look over, you can see there's the ocean down there. When you look like that, there's the ocean down there. But one thing about my dad was he was the most amazing driver ever. I don't sleep when people are driving because I'm I don't feel comfortable enough to sleep. But if there's anybody I would always fall asleep when they're driving too, because I'm relaxed and comfortable, it was always my dad. And he used to be in the military, and in the military he was the driver. So one thing I know about my dad is that he can drive. He can definitely drive in any kind of road, in any kind of place. I know him. He can drive. So we got into this vintage car, and then it's a bit windy outside. And then we started cruising, just riding. It's windy outside. Do you hear that? Like a whistle. It's the wind. Do you hear the whistling wind? I'm not sure if I should continue or wait for the wind to blow over. But it doesn't feel like it's going to stop anytime soon because it's really windy outside. Okay, it stopped. So we were driving on the road. We are dirty. And guess what? The vintage car stopped. It just stopped on the middle of the road. It doesn't. And then we get out of the vintage car, and then he tries to look what the problem is and tries to fix it and see what's going on. And then he gets into the car and starts it again. The car is not starting. We're stuck on the side of the road. We are so dirty with my sister because we were not expecting that. We are so dirty and stuck on that side of the road and whatnot. And it was not moving. The car was not moving. And then my dad was like, oh, we need to kick start it or jump start it or something like that. And then he said my mom should just start driving, and then he pushes the car to move forward. And then my mom starts the car to drive it. And then my dad pushes the car and we're standing there. And my mom drives the car and she drives a long distance. And my dad is like running after the car, like, no, stop, stop, stop. And then we are now like trying to run after the car. Like my dad was not saying stop. He was like, slow down, because she can't stop. If she stops, that means like the vintage car is going to stop. So now we are running, dirty as we are, tired as we are from playing, running after that vintage car to get in so that we can continue with it driving along. And then we're running, and then we run and get inside the car, and everything was fine. And then we got to the other side. So after that, we had always told our dad that never again you drive us back using the vintage car, because there's no freaking way. There is no way we're going through that again. And then that also taught me to actually be ready for anything. Always be clean, always be on point, because you never know what might happen. So always be prepared, you know what I mean? So after that, I've always been prepared and always make sure that when it is time for us to go back, if I was playing outside, I quickly just wipe myself up and I change to clean clothes, and then we go. And then after that, 8 years have gone by, and then my dad had this other new vintage car, and it was supposed to be driving me somewhere, right? We had an award ceremony for when I was in varsity now. We had an award ceremony, and I needed to be dropped off at an airport, right? So that I could fly to the place where they were having from my place, because it was around holiday season, right? So I tell my parents, and then my parents say, we're going to drop you off at the airport, don't worry. And then the tickets are already paid for by those people who were organizing the award thing, because I couldn't even afford a plane ticket. I would have used a bus if I, had to do it out of our own pocket. So my parents are like, we're going to drop you at the airport, don't worry. I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. Guess what? The day of driving me at the airport, one of my uncles was visiting at my parents' house. And then guess what? They just randomly took the convenient car that my parents had, and he drove it off somewhere to town. And then we were trying to call him like, it's time to drive me to the airport. Where is he with the car? Where is he? My uncle, Dololo, nowhere to be found, gone with my father's car. But my father was like, don't worry, we're going to use the vintage car. And I was like, no, please no. No, can we please try to call him one more time? It's like, you're going to miss your flight. We need to get going. And I was like, okay. But can we please call him one more time and one last time and see if he's going to pick up his phone, my uncle. I was traumatized from when we had to run after that other vintage car, because now it was a different vintage car. My dad was like, that's such a long time ago. This vintage car is actually good. It's not like the other one. This one is good. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. We're going to be there in no time. And it was me, my dad, and my mom. It's just us, right? Driving the vintage car, like all out on our way to the airport. And in our town, right? When you're going somewhere, you just put a paper, you put it like this. You just put it like this on the side of the road. Like, you don't hitchhike like that. you don't hit clutch like this or like this or like this unless you're going on a short distance. But if you're going far away in a place, in another place where I was going to be catching the flight, for example, you put a white paper like this, and then you would label with X what that shows where you're going, not the actual name of the place. It has X something, just 2 letters, and then you know where you're going. So there were 2 people carrying bags going to that X what. And then my dad always hitchhike people. And when they want to pay him, he's like, no, it's fine. Just keep the change. And then when they want to pay him, he's like, just buy yourself a drink or something. And then he would not take it. Just randomly hitchhikes people if he has space in his car. I was always worried of what if he hitchhikes the wrong person? But no, he was always fine and always talkative and hitchhiking people. So we saw these 2 people on the side of the road with the X what. And my dad stops for them because I'm sitting alone in this car, and then these 2 people come and join me on the back seat of this vintage car. And the vintage car drives by. Everything is fine, everything is good, everything is great. Let me pick up my thingy that dropped. So everything is fine and everything is great. Now we go. And now we entering the town, the place where we're supposed to be, to getting the flight. And then these people, they were talking as we were in the car, and they were also talking. And we found out that they're actually going to the airport. What they were worried about is that once they get into town, they would have to take a taxi to the airport. But my dad was like, it's your lucky day. We're going to the airport today, so we'll take you there. And then they were so happy about that. And then we drive. We enter into town. Once we enter into town, the robots were not working. They were off. So there was a traffic cop who was instructing people where to go. Oh, by the way, in South Africa, we call traffic lights robots. So every time I hear robots, don't think of... just think of traffic lights. That's what we call robots. Robots, not this robot, but this robot. Okay, cool. So there was someone instructing people, stop, go. And it was time for us to go. My dad starts, we were stuck in that traffic, right? It's time for us to go. My dad starts his vintage car. It stops. The traffic cop is like, go. The car has stopped in the middle of traffic. It is not going. And people are like, beep, 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 beep. People want to go. Road rage, right? Road rage. And I'm like, not again with this vintage cars. Not again. Like, beep, 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 beep. And then my dad is like, looking at me and looked at my mom. Probably that time. You need to push it. So we get out, me and these 3 people going to the airport. We need to push it. So we get up with these 3 people going to the airport. We push the car. It starts going. And then now it jump starts. Then we have to walk fast to go get inside so that we can go to the airport. And I was like, what is up with these vintage cars? They're so inconvenient. Why? But one thing about my dad, he loved vintage cars. And I got to find out why he was into vintage cars. And at times when we see our parents, we only see them as our parents, and we don't see them, as people, their own people with their own dreams and aspirations in life and all those things. My dad, growing up, he was obsessed with cars, and he would make those cars that you made using wires. He would make cars out of wires. And every time, ever since he was a little boy, he would see a nice car that just like speaks to him and he connects with it, he would say, one day I'm gonna own that car. One day I'm gonna own that car. One day I'm gonna own that car. So now him getting this vintage second-hand cars, maybe like 100-hand cars, it was him, you know, fulfilling the dream of that young boy, that young child who would have imoto yamacingo, a car made out of wires, and say, that's my car, I'm going to drive it one day. It was him fulfilling all of his dreams of wanting those cars from when he was a little boy. So if it meant we need to get out and give him a push, get out and give him a push so that he could live his dreams of driving those vintage cars. They were actually good, nice, great cars. But I was like, we have to push. We have to push. So I was always like worried about that. But not weekends, on holidays, like holiday season, when we go to visit my grandma's house with my cousins, sisters, then we go and stay at my grandma's house. My dad can't drive the vintage cars to the village because the road is, it's gravel. So the most convenient would be what? A bike, because it's upper. That one would always on the gravel road, which is not nice, which gives more problems. So he would drive the bakkie, and then we would be like, you know what? Let's just hide underneath, let's hide in the corners of the bakkie on the back seat because it had a canop, like a covering canop. Like, let's just hide in the back of the bakkie, and then when he's done, like visiting my grandparents' house, and then when he leaves, he's not gonna notice that we're hiding in the back of the bakkie, and we're just gonna go with him, and then he's gonna find out when we're far away, and then we're gonna pop up, and then he's gonna have to drive us back, which means we would have had amare, as we call it, just the joys. You know, when people go on roller coasters, we didn't grow up with roller coasters, so that adrenaline of having roller coasters, we would have it by hiding on the back of the car, and then when it rides, we would have that same adrenaline as if we are in a Ferris wheel or a roller coaster or something like that. So we would always hide, but he would always say, come out, get out. And then he would drive off. Like, oh man, we wanted to go with you wherever you were going. But yeah, it was like that. So that's the random story that came to mind about the fact that my dad was really into vintage cars. And every time we were going somewhere, I'm like, I hope we're not using the vintage car. I hope we're not. We're using the other one because, yeah, I prefer the other one, not the vintage one, but the other one. You know, the other one's better. The other one's better. Better. So that's a story that came to mind about vintage cars. Just randomly think about vintage cars, and the wind outside is blowing like nobody's business. And I think me continuing with this video would only be just a waste of time because I don't know how the sound is going to come out. So I think it's only fair for me to end the video here. But before I go, I would like to leave you guys with word of the day. It's time to read word of the day. Jesu fie useni sebeti baqedi lenga websu ekuseni ezokupha amandla amasha. Our word of the day for this week is going to be in the book of Psalms, chapter 30, verse 1 to 5. And it is a psalm, a song for dedication of the temple, for the dedication of the temple of David. And it reads, I will exalt you, Lord, for you lifted me out of the depths and did not let my enemies gloat over me. Lord my God, I called to you for help and you healed me. You, Lord, brought me up from the realms of the dead. You spared me from going down to the pit. Sing the praises of the Lord, you, his faithful people. Praise his holy name, for his anger lasts only a moment, but his favor lasts a lifetime. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning. Okay. The favor of the Lord is upon you. If you are going through dark times this night, just know that joy indeed comes in the morning. Jehova ufika nini? Ufika ekuseni. Sebethi baqedile ngawe ebusuku. Afika ekuseni ezokunikeza amandla amatsha that will last you a lifetime. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope these words comfort you, give you strength, and carry you through the rest of the week. Goodbye. Now that I just said goodbye, I no longer feel the wind blowing outside. How insane is that? How insane is that? It's just completely quiet. Maybe it's a sign that I should go back to like biblical ASMR videos. Be still, the wind. Be still, wind, 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 wind. Be still. Okay, maybe I'll go back to that. And that's one thing I do, and that's one thing teeny. Okay, there it is again.